You know, I'm so glad you could be here with me tonight. I worked real hard to get all this set up.
Mac, what am I doing here? I came here to help you shoot a video.
Are you enjoying your drink?
I'm not drinking that. It doesn't smell like wine.
Wine is such an interesting drink, you know. Alcohol, grapes and stuff. It's good for your health.
Is it?
You know, I wouldn't have been able to do this if not for the fact that I played Qatherine Full Body, a game based entirely around wine and adultery.
Isn't that just the Mega 64 sketch from years ago?
Now, I love Qatherine, but Full Body is a interesting beast. It's the newest in what I like to call Atlus's line of new waifu enhanced re-releases. They take the original game and... Give me one moment. They take the original game, fix up the gameplay while adding in a few new features, make some new music for your ears to reach their pinnacle to, and new story elements brought about by a new waifu that has some mixed results. Of course, sometimes you'll have a character so ingrained in the re-release's DNA that it actively enforces a new canon. And while other times you'll have a Miyako, a character whose story is handled in a way that allows a newcomer to experience the game as it was originally intended, without making the player feel as though they're missing out on something. Full Body's new waifu, Qatherine, kind of falls in between the two extremes for me. Would you like to know more?
Did you get this from the gas station? Pretty sure I saw this at a gas station.
Cool, because I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this, by the way.
Yo, LV. Yo. You made it cancel shit. 1, 2, 3, get sucked, get my sheets.
Qatherine originally released in 2011 to critical and financial success, marking it as one of Atlus's most unique titles both then and even now. While it wasn't this mega successful game, I feel as though it was one of the first titles to really get Atlus's name more in the mainstream. To a lot of people, the idea of a game about a guy cheating on his girlfriend seemed really strange and intriguing, even if they didn't know how the game was a puzzle game about climbing up blocks as it falls bottom up. Regardless, even in a post-Persona 5 world, many people fondly remember Qatherine as the weird, fun, and mature take on relationships. Now, 8 years on, we have Qatherine Full Body, named after a special type of wine that tastes better and richer than your standard. And having just finished the true ending tied to the new waifu, Qatherine, also known as Rin, I have to say, what the fuck was that? Qatherine Full Body brings in a lot of fantastic gameplay changes that easily make it the definitive way to play Qatherine. The two most notable ones are how both Babel mode and Coliseum mode are immediately unlocked and ready to play as soon as you boot the game up. Babel is a great way to just immediately pick up and play Qatherine without having to deal with the cutscenes and bar, so having it be available from the start is perfect for people who just want to play. And considering the competitive scene that has surprisingly sprung up around Qatherine, it's good that they don't have to unlock the multiplayer. Plus, online play is a very welcome addition. The next thing you'll notice is different is the option to play Remix mode in the Golden Playhouse. Remix mode is a new addition that gives veteran players a reason to play the story again. Rather than overhauling each stage, a new block type is introduced: connected blocks. These blocks greatly change up your strategy and force you to completely rethink your way of playing. However, it isn't exactly harder. There were puzzles in Remix mode I found easier than Classic mode and vice versa. The best way to think of it is that it's a reason for you to play the game again, even if it's on the same difficulty level. In terms of quality of life features, easily the best change made to the game is this. It's so glorious! The camera following you behind blocks changes so much. It opens up strategies that involved climbing on the back of blocks to people who couldn't handle how awkward it was previously. It just makes it easier to maneuver back there. Another one is the reworked undo system. Since lives are no longer a thing, pillows now grant extra undos in the level they're found. If the player dies, they automatically use an undo instead of a life. If you have no more undos left, you game over. This rework system is not only fairer, but it streamlines it without compromising on difficulty. Oftentimes, quality of life changes can accompany an easier difficulty, but here, the game stays just as difficult as it was almost 10 years ago. The biggest change to the gameplay is the introduction of Rin's piano, a new gameplay mechanic that slows the speed at which the tower falls when Vincent gets too close to the bottom. I'm mixed on it. It doesn't do anything to hinder the game, as it exists exclusively to help, but what it is a crutch for players who aren't able to keep up with the game. I never really had it activate, and when it did, I rarely ever actually needed it. Usually when it turned on, it was because I spent a lot of time setting up a path, and by the time it did, I was just finishing up making said path. While I was playing on normal, I did go back and play some stages on hard. Rin's piano did activate more often, but I still never really needed it. It's a mechanic that exists more to help players who need the help, but for players who don't need the help, it's just kind of there. Now, my real problem with Rin's piano is how it fucks up the atmosphere of the landings. In the original game, the landings were but a short moment of reprieve before the sheep climbing the tower were forced to continue on their desperate attempts at survival. Here, you could talk to your fellow sheep, learn their stories, discover why they're forced to climb night after night, and maybe even try and work together so everyone can survive. But at the same time, you see sheep start to go crazy, often preferring to save themselves, and some even enjoying killing others. All of this is set to a foreboding soundtrack that's noticeable, but is never able to drown out the cries of sheep falling to their death and the ringing of the confessional bell, reminding you that you must eventually continue on. It's an atmosphere that inspires feelings of dread, reaffirming in the player's mind that they are in a life or death situation with real people just as desperate as them to survive. Rin's piano playing changes this atmosphere. She wants to help as best as she can, so she plays her piano to help others calm down and feel better. And she succeeds at this. And that's my problem. Outside of gameplay additions, there are newly animated cutscenes added to the main story. But they're kinda not great. They're not necessarily bad, they're just not the best they could be. One of the biggest complaints people had with the original game's story was that there was nothing that showed why Vincent and Qatherine supposedly loved each other. As far as we know, the relationship was always this strained and frankly kinda toxic. The new Qatherine cutscenes expand upon the relationship between the two, but they don't go far enough in my opinion. These new scenes specifically focus on the start of the relationship, but we don't see why they liked each other. All we see is a short scene of them in high school, a short scene of Vincent and her on their first date, and a short scene of them post-boinking. All of these scenes are way too short to allow for anything more than their honeymoon phase. We don't get to see why these two fell in love in the first place, or why the relationship is really worth salvaging. It feels like a missed opportunity. On the other side of the literal spectrum is the new Qatherine animated scenes. Unlike the Qatherine scenes that exist to fix a problem with the original game, the new Qatherine ones exist to add more comedic moments. These scenes aren't as short as the previously mentioned ones, but I personally feel like they're just kind of awkwardly attached. They're moments that don't add anything at all to the plot, but they don't really detract either. Not to mention, they're quite literally optional, unlike the Qatherine ones. They're just weird jokes about Qatherine trying to be all cute and sexy with Vincent and him freaking out. They're kind of one note in that respect. Honestly, my biggest problem with all of the newly animated scenes is that they look much worse when placed alongside the originals. Qatherine's face is all fucked up, characters will change position as the camera cuts to new angles, and they could just look cheap. The only ones that really look good are certain scenes in Rin's story, and even then, I still don't think they look as good as the best the original game had to offer. And again, they're pretty goddamn short. They end just as quickly as they begin. Moving on from the animated cutscenes, the in-engine cutscenes are also worth talking about. These new scenes just blow the originals out of the water, God! Looking back on the original release, the animations are stiff, slow, and repetitive. Not only can you see each model slide back into their idle animation, but you see the same animations over and over and over again in the exact same scene. It's easily the most dated aspect of Qatherine as a whole. That's where the new cutscenes come in. Not only are they beautifully animated, but they're unique and last the entire scene. There's no snapping into place or clunky movement here. They're so improved, it can actually be jarring at times. There are a few scenes where it starts off as the original 2011 version that then gets extended with new story content and conversations, usually all relating to Rin. It's a jump in quality that seriously stands out. The only other thing I want to say about the new in-engine cutscenes is that while they're infinitely better and more interesting to watch, they also create a different feel. Things like faster editing, dynamic framing, and more come together to create a much less stressful atmosphere when compared to the original. Old scenes had a lot of close-ups with characters occupying the middle of the screen. It just sit on these shots for a long while before cutting away to a new angle that was about as static as the original. Qatherine was Atlus's first attempt at a more cinematic presentation, so the basic visual storytelling is a result of that. But whether it was intended or not, it led to a claustrophobic feeling that recreated Vincent's anxiety in the player over his inability to escape this situation. These new scenes often make use of less close-ups, preferring medium shots of the characters occupying one side of the screen and the rest left empty. Now, I'm not saying the new atmosphere is bad. Rather, I feel that a claustrophobic atmosphere is a better fit for a game that describes itself as a, quote, unconventional romantic horror. To be fair, the new scenes aren't trying to make the player feel stressed. This actually ties into the grander topic that is Rin's story. Thus far, I have talked about the gameplay mechanics and various aspects relating to the game's presentation. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking about the story, mainly pertaining to the true Rin ending. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, skip to this timestamp. Okay, first things first, I need to get this out of the way. Everything about Rin just sticks out and, in my opinion, clashes with the original vision of the game. All of the new scenes and dialogue involving her feel shoehorned into the plot of the original. She feels like a Japanese stereotype of this pure woman, someone who's always cheering for everyone and wants the best for them and is willing to help anyone and everyone to do it. She's really quiet and softly spoken compared to everyone else on the cast. On the landings, she plays the piano specifically because she wants to cheer people up and help them feel better.
Go! Fight! Fight!
Her outfit is a Japanese sailor fuku, aka a Japanese school uniform. While those are based on European outfits, fukus have evolved to a point where they've taken on a life of their own and have even become an important staple of Japanese culture. Not to mention, Rin's hair is, pink. Normally, I wouldn't have a problem with this. Atlus is a Japanese company and Qatherine is a Japanese game, so having a very Japanese character shouldn't be a problem. However, one of the reasons Qatherine is such a unique game among Atlus's portfolio is the fact that the characters and locations are based on America. Now, I know what some diehard Qatherine fans are gonna say. According to the Venus Mode art book that was released back in 2011, the game actually takes place on a space colony, which is hinted at by the Until the Rain Stops countdown on day 8, and various other hints particularly pertaining to the True Freedom ending. So yes, the game doesn't actually take place in America. But I don't believe that is a good enough argument to justify such a foreign character in a game heavily influenced by Americana. The outfits people wear are distinctly Western. The names of the characters are the same in both the Japanese and English release. And everyone except Johnny, who is of Asian descent, is Caucasian. Vincent himself is even based on Italian-American actor Vincent Gallo. Sure, some of the locations, such as the sushi bar and Vincent's apartment, are distinctly Japanese. And sure, the designs of the characters are stylized. You aren't likely to come across Erika's bright red hair color in real life unless someone dyed it. But red hair is still a color you can very easily come across on any given day. And while I'll give you Vincent's apartment, I literally went to a sushi bar last week and I've never left the East Coast. And frankly, these characters just act way more American with how loud they can be. Rin just sticks out among all this Americana that I can't help but find it distracting. And to be perfectly honest, I kind of find Rin to be a Mary Sue. Mary Sue is a term that has become more and more nebulous in recent years. People throw out accusation of characters being Mary Sues left and right, to the point that it can be hard to take these claims seriously. I'm not going to say definitively that Rin is a Mary Sue, but I'm going to at least explain why I get those vibes from her. For starters, everyone loves her. Whether this be her randomly spawning a legend about this beautiful and amazing pianist that can save your life by sending a video of her playing to someone, or everyone in the nightmares that had new dialogue written talking about how amazing her piano playing is. Second, she's objectively the goodest character in the entire cast. Everyone in Qatherine is written to not be a good person. Vincent is unable to commit to anything and prefers to keep secrets instead of facing them head on. Qatherine is cold, controlling, and manipulative. Qatherine is crazy, abusive, and a literal fucking rapist. Orlando is a cynic. Johnny is in love with another woman despite being in a relationship. And like it or not, in the original release of the game, it portrays Erika not telling Toby she's trans as a bad thing. Rin is just the nicest person, willing to help anyone and everyone. The only other character that isn't written to be morally questionable is Toby, and even then, he's written to be naive and inexperienced. Unlike Rin, Toby has actual real flaws, which leads me to my third point. The only flaws she does have are her being poor at playing the piano, being a bit of a klutz, and lacking social etiquette. The latter two flaws are portrayed more as cute quirks of Rin's that never really amount to anything. As for her piano playing, she overcomes it within the first few days of the game as she starts to regain her memory. By the halfway point, she's already started a cult following of both humans and sheep. On their own, these attributes do not make her a Mary Sue, but together, Rin is such an idealized character. She just doesn't feel real. And in a story with characters who all feel real and down to earth, I hope you can see why I think she can come off as a Mary Sue. As for her story, nothing really happens until day 6. Hey, it's post-recording currently editing me here to expand upon what I mean by nothing really happens until day 6. Basically, outside of the beginning events where Rin is chased by a giant, where it turns out she has amnesia, where she gets a job with a stray sheep, and that she starts appearing in the nightmares, nothing of any story substance really happens until day 6. Up to that point, all of the Rin scenes, all they do is establish her character, her relationship to Vincent, and how she thinks anyone can love whoever they want. The only thing that's really noteworthy is that on day 5, Rin admits to falling in love with Vincent, which, now that I'm saying this, it seems like something I should have brought up originally. Whatever, Rin loves Vincent now you know. When it's revealed that Rin is actually a boy. The entire game, Vincent and co were assuming that he was actually a she based on his appearance. The only character who knew was Erika, and I'm pretty damn sure she referred to Rin as a she a few times after she would have found out. Regardless, Rin isn't a girl, nor is he trans. This ties into the main theme of Rin's story, accepting those you love for who they are and not letting others have an effect on your feelings. Following this discovery, Vincent reacts violently as Rin tries to comfort him. This causes Rin to run off before Vincent chases after, regretting his actions. If you correctly answered the right confession questions on certain nights, you are presented with 3 final questions that put you on the Rin route. If you didn't answer them correctly, Rin quite literally disappears from the plot outside of a phone call that attempts to offer some purposefully unsatisfying closure. After answering the 3 final questions, Vincent realizes his feelings for Rin haven't changed, and he becomes determined to make it up to him. Come day 8, and we are presented with what I think is the most infuriating scene in the entirety of Full Body. In the original, day 8 is the day C. Qatherine and K. Qatherine finally meet, and Vincent is finally forced to confront the awful situation he's found himself in. This scene is my absolute favorite moment in the entire game. It's the epitome of why I love Qatherine. The day starts with the revelation that there is no nightmare. Vincent made it to the top and was able to cut C. Qatherine out of his life. A random stranger comes to Vincent's door to try and sell him something. The music is happy and somewhat celebratory. Vincent even goes back to sleep for a while before K. Qatherine arrives at the door. The game does so much to make you think the nightmares are finally over, only for it to drag you back in when Vincent opens the door to reveal C. Qatherine standing right behind him. K. Qatherine stares down Vincent as C. Qatherine gleefully hangs herself on his body, never letting him go, all while taunting K. Qatherine about the things they've done. Vincent tries to explain himself, but K. Qatherine's anger refuses to let him speak. The two girls start arguing, getting louder and louder as Vincent finally breaks. The room abruptly goes silent. K. Qatherine gets up and makes her way to the sink, reaching for a knife that isn't there. It's then that C. Qatherine pulls the knife K. Qatherine was so desperately searching for before rushing at her. Vincent tries to stop her, only to be stabbed himself. K. Qatherine tries to escape as C. Qatherine grabs at her hair, causing her to fall on the ground. C. Qatherine gets on top, and the two struggle before someone is stabbed. Vincent struggles to stand up, only to find C. Qatherine dead with the knife embedded in her stomach. K. Qatherine looks at the corpse and starts to freak out. Vincent tries to get K. Qatherine out of this traumatic experience before the two open the door to find that the nightmare hasn't ended. The apartment dissolves into the ground as a warped version of C. Qatherine's voice can be heard. It's here where Vincent drags K. Qatherine further into the nightmare, so the two can escape the coming monster that is C. Qatherine. What makes this scene so amazing is the game doing everything it can to make you think this is actually happening. Up to this point in the game, nothing supernatural has ever happened in the real world. Outside of C. Qatherine appearing in the apartment, everything about the scene is down to earth and real. C. Qatherine dying after a single stab to the stomach, Vincent getting sliced and struggling to get up, the realistic movement of the characters, K. Qatherine's traumatized state after having her boyfriend's lover die on top of her, and everything goes exactly as it would in reality. Atlus purposefully kept the extraordinary in the nightmares and kept the real world realistic so they could finally subvert our expectations with this scene. That, coupled with the slow, anxiety-fueling unfurling of events, results in an explosive scene as it all finally comes to a head. Rin's route replaces this scene with an equivalent that I feel is worse in every single way. The scene makes no attempt to make the player think what is happening is actually happening. Barely half as much time is spent trying to convince the player that this isn't a nightmare. One could argue that they shortened it as they knew people who played the original would already know that the nightmares aren't over. To that, I would argue that just because returning players might already know that it isn't over, doesn't mean that Rin's route isn't someone's first time reaching this point. Whether they be a returning vet who's never finished the story, or someone experiencing it for the first time, it's always possible that Rin's route is someone's first experience with Qatherine. Vincent lies in bed as the clanging sounds of Rin's piano can be heard. He gets up to see if Rin has returned, only to find C. Qatherine, whom he had broken up with the day before, repeatedly stabbing Rin over and over, blood splattering everywhere with each stab. Instantly, the scene is infinitely more over the top than the original ever got. This is the one scene in Rin's route that tries to be the romantic horror the game was initially envisioned as, and I think it doesn't understand the type of horror Qatherine is. Qatherine is a horror game filled with demonic imagery and symbolism at night, and stress-fueled interactions during the day. The horror is more psychological, with blood only being spilled during gameplay and when Qatherine dies. This scene? This is a slasher. Qatherine is a yandere, but she always felt like someone you can find in real life, a stalker. This scene treats her like she's fucking Yuno Gasai. As Qatherine tries to kill Vincent, he runs to his room to find Qatherine there ready to kill him with an axe. Qatherine, meanwhile, takes a fucking chainsaw to the door and the two Catherines break it down. The two then clash weapons as sparks fly everywhere. The two then turn on Vincent, more sparks fly, and he escapes, leaving the two to kill each other. Blood comes shooting out of the now pitch black room, with Qatherine being the winner. Just before she can kill Vincent, Rin portals himself in and saves Vincent, bringing him to the nightmare proper. But not before Rin gets nicked, so they can recycle the gameplay of the original Day 8, but with Rin instead of Qatherine. Everything about this scene is over the top and corny. If the original Nightmare intro is The Shining, this is Saw. Instead of the slow, methodical, purposeful psychological breakdown of events, we get loud, in-your-face, and bombastic horror that thinks the way to scare someone is to show a lot of blood. If you like this scene, more power to you, but the fact that it replaces what is my favorite moment of the entire game makes me infinitely more critical of it. Following the climb, Vincent and Rin get to the top before the ladder is grabbed and forced to stay in the nightmare. During this, an echoing demonic voice can be heard. Vincent escapes and wakes up in his room alone. Soon after, Qatherine arrives, and the two talk before going their separate ways and ending their relationship. Before I get into Rin's ending, I want to quickly go over my feelings on the new Qatherine and Qatherine endings. Both of these you can get by sending a video of Rin playing piano to the respective girl. In the Qatherine ending, it's revealed that she apparently has the ability to time travel. Qatherine goes back in time and changes the past so that she entered into Vincent's life in high school. The two start dating, and a few years later they get married. Out of all of the endings, this one might actually be the happiest, as it literally keeps the frankly fucked up events of the game from happening. Outside of Vincent doing the one stock photo meme, things are incredibly happy all around. I like this ending, though it is weird how Johnny doesn't get with Qatherine despite the game making a big deal of how he loves her. Meanwhile, in the Qatherine ending, she leaves Vincent and instead decides to focus on her career and on herself, leaving Vincent to chase after her wake, though she still thinks of him fondly and wants him to be happy as well. This ending is also pretty good. It sucks that Vincent is left to chase after her, but this is essentially Qatherine's freedom ending. It offers a new perspective on the idea of freedom, even if we don't get a lot of insight into her headspace that led her down this path. Only other thing I have to say about it is that it kinda makes the whole space colony thing more confusing. We see Qatherine get on a
helicopter
that goes off to sea during this ending, but there being a sea kinda makes no sense. We've seen what the space colony looks like thanks to Venus mode, and it doesn't look like a place that would have a large artificial open body of water. Anyway, let's get back to Rin's story. You remember how Vincent found out Boss was the one behind the nightmares, right? That he discovered that all of his text messages from Qatherine were gone, is told that no one ever saw her, and eventually realizes the only time he can recall someone acknowledging Qatherine was when Boss welcomed her to the bar? How there was subtle foreshadowing that served the double purpose of tricking the player into thinking everyone could see Qatherine, and being a hint no one playing the game for the first time could figure out was a hint? Yeah, Vincent just figures out it's Boss because the nightmare voice sounded like him. Apparently. It's kinda hard to tell under all that heavy distortion and the fact that Boss has never spoken in any way that wasn't calm, cool, and collected, while this voice was loud, taunting, and sadistic.
Oh,
Watch out!
too bad. Did you people know the reason you're taught as a child to count sheep so you'll fall asleep is...
Yeah, sheep rhymes with sleep or something.
Whatever, let's just get it over with. Vincent confronts Boss in an altered version of the original scene before they make one last bet. If Vincent beats him that night, Rin goes free. Needless to say, Vincent wins, he and Rin chastise Boss for being problematic, Rin does his thing and offers to help the bad guy realize humans are better than he thinks, the two kiss, and the game ends! That is before we return to the bar from a talk with Trish. Everyone is happy to see Rin has returned and that he and Vincent are together. During this, Rin just slightly mentions about how he hopes his brother will allow him to become a human permanently, so the two can be together forever. It's then Vincent and Rin are drawn into a white vortex where Archangel, Rin's brother, appears. As it turns out, Rin is actually an angel sent down to try and put a stop to the nightmares, which explains the fact that he could open portals, could break the rules of the nightmares, and the angel wings that were on the back of his fuku. Archangel is pissed off that his Ototo wants to be a human and plans to erase Rin's memory so he can be re-educated. In fact, Archangel is so pissed at Vincent for seducing his brother, he decides he's just gonna destroy all of humanity using meteors. Qatherine has now gone from a small-scale, personal story about relationships to a literal save-the-world plot. Vincent tries to convince Archangel to not destroy humanity, and the two make a deal. If Vincent can beat him in one final nightmare, he'll stop the meteors. Archangel returns the pair to the bar and goes on his way. First off, oh my god, Archangel looks so fucking badass. It looks like Soejima and Doi got together to collaborate on a new Metatron design while taking influence from Kaneko's Baldur. Probably one of the cooler designs I've seen from Soejima. Second, everyone who was in the bar when Vincent and Rin got taken by Archangel? Yeah, they were aware of what was happening. Do they react at all? I mean, kinda. Johnny and Orlando react by trying to write it off as being drunk despite Vincent telling them it's not that, while Toby literally doesn't react at all. That night, Vincent and Rin team up to beat Archangel, taking the tower concept to its logical conclusion, starting at the very tip top of the tower and proceeding to climb so high you literally enter space. The imagery in these final few stages and landings looks absolutely amazing, and the music is, oh, it's so good. The new landing theme is my personal favorite of these tracks. It really sets the tone perfectly as you climb into space, though I do think it's weird that Rin is still playing the piano when you're on the landing, yet the song has no piano. There's also a new block type introduced, the laser block. It's not that much more difficult than any of the other block types, but I found myself having to undo a lot due to never being able to fully grasp how much time I had left before it went off. The final battle with Archangel honestly is kinda disappointing. Compared to Boss's final form, Archangel just isn't as interesting. Mutton's fight feels like the culmination of everything the game had been building towards, forcing you to act quickly and smartly as blocks change at random. It truly feels like the final test of your skills at Qatherine's unique gameplay. Archangel's gimmick is that he can summon a tornado to blow away the lower parts of the tower, clones that move based on Vincent's movement, and a laser attack that's pretty easy to avoid. It isn't a bad fight, but when compared to Mutton, it's no contest who is the better final boss. Once you beat Archangel, he's unable to stand the fact that he lost, and explodes.
What the hell is even that?
So it turns out, Archangel wasn't just Big Brother, but rather Big Brothers. Vincent and Rin wake up in the stray sheep surrounded by the pink minion motherfuckers, and what follows is the most surreal and tonally dissident ending possible for Qatherine. Not only do the assholes fuck around the bar messing with Boss and playing Rapunzel, but the game pulls the same plot twist for the third time. Not only is Rin actually a boy, not only is Rin actually an angel, but Rin is actually a fucking alien. Angels are fucking aliens. Now, Atlus, baby, sweet baby, babe. I got a question for you. If angels were aliens this whole time, what the fuck are demons? What is Mutton? What is Astaroth? What is Trish? What is Qatherine? What are Orlando, Johnny, Toby, and Erica doing at the bar? What the fuck were you thinking when you made this game? What led you to add pink fucking minions to Qatherine? What made you think it was a good idea to pull the same plot twist 3 times with the same character? What made you go, we should add aliens to this plot? What the fuck is this fever dream of an ending? What the fuck? Just... God! Damn it! Fuck! No. Okay, so yes, I understand how Rin being an alien ties into the main theme of his story. But this is just fucking overkill. It's bad writing. Using the exact same plot twist with the exact same character 3 times in a row is bad writing. To me, this is actually the worst part of Rin's story. I'm most upset about the Day 8 Nightmare intro, but it's only because of the fact that it's a worse version of the best scene in the game. This is just dumb. As the epilogue begins, we jump to a few months later as Rin has now become an intergalactic pianist and Vincent his producer. The two finally get married and they fly off in their spaceship together to live happily ever after. God, this ending is just dumb. And honestly, I think this is the best way to lead into why I think Full Body is so different from the base game. Full Body was made 8 years after the original, and in that time, things changed. Atlus got better at making cutscenes, they got better at understanding the flaws in their past games, and they got better at fixing said flaws. The gameplay changes are all across the board great, with the only thing I didn't care for being a mechanic that isn't intrusive in any way. The developers behind the game also changed. Qatherine is no longer a P Studio title, but rather a Studio Zero title. While Katsura Hashino directed the original game, he actually only produced Full Body. The title of director was ultimately left to Kenichi Goto, who had previously been the battle planner on both Raito games and Persona 5. Hashino decided to add Rin in order to update the game and modernize its subject matter, essentially tackling the idea of homosexual relationships and offering what I feel is fairly positive gay representation. This is a change in attitude I really love about Full Body. But it's but one part in a new vision for Qatherine, and it's one I just don't like as much as the original. The new story content is not the romantic horror the original game was. It's just a romance. Rin's story not being anywhere near as stressful makes sense considering the themes of the story and how they wanted to develop Vincent's relationship with him, but it's hard for me to deny that it doesn't feel like a different story as a result. Even in the one moment where the game tries to replicate the horror tone of the original, it's not the same kind of horror, feeling much more over the top than the subdued nature of the original. Even the dialogue in the new scenes feels different, with characters talking in ways that just don't feel the same. It's not a bad vision, but it's one that I feel isn't as good or as interesting. It's also one that clashes with the original vision. Maybe this change is a result of Goto taking the director's chair, or maybe Hashino's vision for the game changed and he had more influence on Full Body than one would think. Whatever the reason is, it led to the majority of the experience feeling like one that's jumping back and forth between a story more akin to Monogatari, Chobits, and Golden Time, and a story more akin to The Shape of Water, Paprika, and, well, Qatherine. I actually did 2 playthroughs in preparation for this video, and I'm happy to say that for the most part, you can experience the game as it was originally intended. You can skip the new story content and retain the original experience. However, Rin playing the piano on the landings permanently changes what I feel is an important aspect of the nightmares on the nights where it happens. It's the one part of the game that has been irrevocably changed for what I feel is the worst. Qatherine Full Body is easily the best version of Qatherine, and it's easily the one I recommend newcomers play. Not only is it a refinement of one of the most unique puzzle games I've ever played, but it's also filled with content and gives you plenty of reasons to keep playing. The new story content isn't bad, except for that one part. It's just different. If you think it's fine being different, then I can't really argue with you. It's your opinion, and I can still see why someone would feel that way. However, for me, I can't help but feel the new story content doesn't flow well with the intentions of 2011 Atlus, and it creates an experience that can feel inconsistent and disjointed at times. But despite all of that, Qatherine easily remains among one of Atlus's best games, and easily the most unique experience they've ever had to offer. Hey guys, it's Macca. Oh my god, I got this video done. I got it done. I didn't think I'd be doing another long form video after the two the Somnium Files, Limniscate, ARG recap videos that were each 50 minutes long. I didn't think I'd be doing another one within a year of those two, but I ended up doing it, and I didn't plan on it. When I first set out to do a video on Full Body, I was not planning on this thing being 40 plus minutes. It's just my passion for Qatherine and just my love for this game and its story just resulted in me wanting to talk about so much and really get into the heart of what I feel is the positives and the negatives of Full Body. Well, I'm gonna say this right now. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, you're gonna want to like this video, please, just because I would really appreciate it, but also subscribe, because this video is kind of like a testing ground for something I have coming. Oh, I just bumped the mic. This video is like a testing ground for something that I have coming, later on this year. I'll give you a little hint. It rhymes with Epona, Strive, Coil. Think about it. I want to thank LaRue from Digino Tensei for reviewing the script and giving me some feedback. I really appreciated that. It actually allowed me to add in a few other things, mainly about how, Kenichi Goto was the director and Hashino was no longer the director. He's just the producer. I also want to thank my roommate for basically just letting me figure out my feelings on Full Body by just talking at him, not talking with him, but talking at him. And I also especially want to thank my friend, who I'm not going to say his name. He was the guy who was in the intro skit. He is really nervous in front of the camera. I did not know that until after I had asked him. I had to have someone else tell me. And I gave him multiple outs saying, dude, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. But he was cool with it. He was like, yeah, no, I can do it. And I really got to give him props for that. I really, really, really appreciate it. Oh yeah, also, I got a webcam if you couldn't tell. Reason I did is because I want to stream more. I keep saying that, but I'm streaming right now over on my Twitch, twitch.tv/JacksBackAmaka. Come check it out, it's fun. I'm streaming literally right now after this video has gone up. So yeah, come on, come watch, it'll be fun. But yeah, what did you think of Qatherine Full Body? Let me know down in the comments below. If you feel differently, or if there's a certain angle I didn't tackle a game from, or there's something I didn't think about, just tell me in the comments, because I specifically went at this from the mindset of, how can I analyze this? How can I look at this and really critique it, really try and figure out, looking at it from as many angles as I can. And yeah, if there's anything I didn't think of or anything that I just didn't tackle it from, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to have this turn into a conversation about Full Body. Also, while you're down there, tell me about how liking Rin totally isn't gay. I'll see you guys next time for whatever the hell it is I come up with next.